Right off the top, new today, in the matter of convicted sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein and the public's thirst to see what's in those Epstein files, the Department of Justice announced today that they will release more than 3 million pages of records. What's in them, though? That's the big question. We're told more than 2,000 videos and 180,000 images. Here's Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche.
The categories of documents withheld include those permitted under the Act to be withheld. Files that contain personally identifiable information of victims or victims' personal and medical files, and similar files, the disclosure of which would constitute a clearly unwarranted invasion of personal privacy.
CBS News Justice reporter Jake Rosen live from Washington. So, Jake, they have a lot of files to go through, but they've had this for quite a while. Is there any idea why we're still not seeing all of them, and now this was supposed to be released in December?
It was, Reed. It's been 42 days since the statutory deadline to release all of these files. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who spoke with the Department of Justice press corps for about 35 minutes today, not so totally centrally focused on the Epstein files, but that was the purpose of this press availability, said that this is 3 million documents, like you just mentioned with that breakdown, some just documents, photos, videos. Some of them were videos taken by Jeffrey Epstein, Deputy Attorney General Blanche said. Others were just found in his collection. Some of it is child pornography. Others is just simply videos and photos of the estate and that he had in his possession. What we don't know is the exact scope of what's in here in terms of massively exciting new revelatory details. What we do know is that Blanche said that the Department of Justice has combed through these files through, quote, multiple layers of review, which means that they have combed through not just the potential legal ramifications of releasing some of these documents, but protecting victims' identities, Reed. We should also note to our audience that in this big batch, there is not a full, complete set of information. Deputy Attorney General Blanche said that while they were overly conservative in terms of their moving to declassify and release some of these documents, this is not the full final set. It will likely be what they said, one of the last releases at all. We'll see what kind of comes out of this as our team of dozens and dozens of people at CBS read through it.
So we know who has their hands on the documents. Is there any mechanism for any oversight as they go through those documents? A lot of families of Epstein survivors say they want everything released, but they'd also like some oversight on those who have their fingerprints on those documents.
There's been a push, Reed, by two congressmen, Congressman Thomas Massie, who is a Republican from Kentucky, and Ro Khanna, who's a Democrat, who led this charge to get this Epstein legislation passed. Their efforts were rejected in court to push for some kind of special master, somebody who would come in and oversee the Department of Justice's handling of these releases to check potentially whether any documents have been altered before they're released or potentially after. We know that there have been a number of congruent and parallel pushes from members of Congress to get the Justice Department Inspector General, an independent body that would review this release. That has not caught momentum either. So right now, and this is the challenge that the Trump administration and Deputy Attorney General Blanche and Attorney General Pam Bondi have to really handle this fallout, as well as President Trump, is how do you convince people that this is accurate? How do you convince people that this is final? And how do you convince people that this information that's being released and the information that was released in November and December all is actually trustworthy and worth the public's time to read through? 3 million documents is a lot. How many people are going to go through with that, Reed, is a number and different question. And whether, and Deputy Attorney General Blanche answered it himself, he said he was not sure that the final solution and answer here would be for the public to trust the Department of Justice. He said they were doing what they could, but this is kind of a gasoline fire that's going to be very difficult to put out because people are still going to have questions as new information will come to light, as it has for the last 15 years or so on this topic.
In a way, that push for oversight and involvement by a potential overseer sort of mirrors what we're seeing in Minnesota, where Minnesota officials and law enforcement would like to have something to do or some involvement in the federal investigations into the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. I want to ask you about that Department of Justice investigation into Alex Preddy. Is the same scrutiny happening where Renee Good's killing is concerned?
Not necessarily, and I will read you what Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said today at that press conference about this. He said, "We are looking into everything that would shed light on what happened that day," referring to the investigation by the Justice Department, which was acknowledged for the first time today by Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, into the killing of Alex Preddy by those federal immigration officials in Minnesota. We did not know, and we do not know whether that will really expand to the death of Renee Good. However, it does signal a change, and from what we've heard over the last week from the Department of Homeland Security, from the White House, that there is some kind of ongoing investigation here, whether it's a civil rights investigation in its full to see if Preddy's civil rights were violated before he was shot, or potentially, as some new footage has shown out, whether Preddy potentially had committed any crimes in this past couple of weeks of protests in Minnesota before he was killed. That is all continually up in the air here, but what we do know is that there are Justice Department lawyers looking at this, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said today, and whether the results of that will be in parallel to what Homeland Security is putting out, whether there's any other kind of investigation put on by the state, as we know they've been essentially stonewalled in this investigation, remains to be seen.
Jake Rosen reporting live from Washington. Thank you so much for staying on your toes. So many questions to ask here. We appreciate you.